We have two choices when we build the centerline surfaces of the car. Either to build a single surface across the centerline, as I did in the previous tutorial, or to build just one half and use layer symmetry to visualize the other half. And it's this layer symmetry direction that's the basis for some really useful tools that we can use in both cases. So initially I built across the centerline. And the reason I did that was because we get perfect smoothness across a single span surface. And I can show that by applying these reflection lines, which show that there are no glitches and it's smooth across that centerline. And we can also show that using the curvature locator. So if I put that on this edge here, for example, you can see that it's really smooth across the centerline. So this is the good thing about this method. But the bad thing is that it's very easy to mess up the surface. So if I accidentally move one CV on one side only, then I lose the symmetry. But we've got a tool here that helps with that on the Object Edit palette, and it's called Symmetric Modeling. And if I apply that to this rear surface, you can see that it's now matched the CV positions on both sides. And it doesn't know which side I want, so I can flip the master side. And you can see that it's using the symmetry plane that the layer is using to decide which direction to make the symmetry work. So now if I take the shading off, you'll notice that this surface is green, whereas the others are shown in blue. And green means construction history, which will continue to keep the surface symmetrical as I make changes. So if I pick this CV, its matching one on the other side is also highlighted, and will move when I move the first one, and always keep the surface symmetrical. Now, if I prefer the second option, where I work on just one side, then I could now split these surfaces in half. So let's look at this windscreen surface. And in this V direction, we've only got one span. So I could change that to 2 spans, and hit accept. And you can see that the CVs have changed. And if I turn those off, you can also see that I have an extra line here. And the lines on the surface are called isopalms. And the isopalms show the 2 spans. So I can use this to split the surface using the Detached tool here on the Object Edit palette, under Attach. And if I click on this isopalm, then I get a splitting line in the right direction. But it's free to move. So I can use the Control key to snap exactly onto the isopalm line. And then I can say Go, and then just pick and delete the other half. But I don't actually need to increase the spans. Instead, I can use the Patch Precision tool. And if I click on this surface, I can click and drag and just temporarily give myself some extra visual isopalms. And I can detach on these visual isopalms in the same way as I did on the real ones, again using the Control key to snap accurately onto the center one. And then I can reduce those visual isopalms again if I want to. Now over on this rear surface, remember it's green, so it's got construction history. So if I try to do a detach, then I get a warning which just asks if I'm sure I want to lose the history. So I can go across to the middle, but I haven't got anything to snap to. But this time I can find the center by using the Alt key to snap. So Alt will always snap to halfway between an isopalm. So that then gives me my 1/2. And I can go into the object lister and display the symmetry. And it's still just as smooth as my single surface, as the shape hasn't been changed by using Detach. So when I work on 1/2, I don't have to worry about symmetry, but I do need to be concerned about the smoothness across the center line. So what's interesting here is to find out what the CVs have to do at the center line to make 1/2 smooth to the other half. And you can see here that the first set of CVs are exactly horizontally in line with the second set. And it's this that makes the 2 halves tangent to each other. So if I pick these second CVs and move them up, it creates a dip. And if I move them down, it gives a peak. And you can see that when those CVs become 90 degrees to the center line, that's when we get a smooth result. So I'm just going to leave that with a peak. And I'll take the symmetry display off. And I can now fix that using another tool that also uses the layer symmetry direction. And it's on the Align pull-down menu, and it's called Symmetry Plane Align. And this asks us to click near the edge that's on the center line. So I'll just click on this edge. And you can see that it's moved the CVs, and now all the first and second CVs are horizontal to each other. And we have construction history again. So if I now move the center CVs, the second row will follow to keep them in line. And then if I move the second row, the first will follow. So it's always keeping that smoothness across the center line. And that will apply to a single CV as well. So it doesn't really matter which method you use. I'm going to continue on with these split surfaces and carry on building just one half of the car, but I would encourage you to explore both options, as they're both used regularly. And so here's a reminder of the tools on the Object Edit palette that we've used. So you've got Detached to split a surface at an isopalm, Patch Precision to increase the number of isopalms displayed, then there's Symmetric Modeling for when you're working across a center line, and Symmetry Plane Align, which applies to the centerline edge when you build only one half. And with Detached, don't forget you have the snapping keys as well.